to our noon edition of Arirang News. Here are the stories making the headlines at this hour. President Yoon has made a national address on the nation's medical reform plans to add an extra 2,000 admission slots for the 2025 school year. Meanwhile, medical professors that have been filling the gaps left by the trainee doctors' walkout are shortening their working hours. For the 10th month straight, South Korea's trade balance has remained in the black. The Trade Ministry says a strong performance in exports, mainly semiconductor products, was behind this. The Defense Ministry has launched its own AI center to better use cutting-edge technology to strengthen combat on the battlefield. The center will consist of private researchers as well as active-duty soldiers with military expertise. President Yoon has called on striking junior doctors to return to their patients' sides as he made a live televised address to the Korean public to stress the urgent need for medical reform amid a shortage of medical staff. At around 11 a.m. on Monday, the South Korean leader began a near-hour-long speech explaining to aid public understanding on the government's push to restructure the medical sector, namely by expanding the annual quota of students admitted to medical schools by 2,000. The policy has been opposed by thousands of junior doctors who have staged a walkout since late February, compromising medical services nationwide. Yoon said 2,000 additional students are the minimum number of entrants needed after the government held close inspections and consultations with medical schools and doctors. He noted that South Korea has a shortage of 80,000 doctors, falling below the OECD average of 3.7 clinicians per 1,000 people, despite the country spending above the OECD average on healthcare. The president reasserted that he will not tolerate what he called illegal collective actions that threaten the lives and well-being of Korean citizens. Due to the mass walkout by the trainee doctors, medical school professors filling the gaps left by the walkout have declared they'll cut back their working hours starting today. Ha-seong has the latest.
Medical schools professors in general hospitals are reducing outpatient services and surgeries as of Monday. Because of the en masse walkout by trainee doctors 7 weeks ago, the medical professors keeping the hospitals running are suffering from increasing fatigue. Professors from 20 schools among 14 nationwide stated last Saturday that one day off will be mandatory after working continuously for 24 hours. They added that outpatient services and surgeries for the treatment of severe and emergency patients will be scheduled based on this rule. The Korean Medical Association, the biggest doctors group in the country, also announced doctors who run a private clinic will shorten their working hours to 40 hours per week. Meanwhile, 51% of the professors from the Big Five medical schools in Seoul have not yet submitted their resignations or disclosed their intentions. The Big Five hospitals refer to Seoul National University, Ulsan University, Yonsei University, Seongkyungwan University, and Catholic University. At Seoul National University, 32%, around 450 out of its 1,400 professors have submitted or plan to submit their resignation letters. At Yonsei University, 48% have submitted the letters, and at Catholic University, about 48% have said they intend to resign. The professors who have submitted their resignations are continuing to work alongside patients until their resignations are processed. Ha-seong, Arirang News.
On to economics. South Korea's exports once again saw a strong performance. This was mostly led by the tech sector, especially semiconductor exports. Our An Sung-jin brings the latest.
South Korea's trade balance for March was in the black for the 10th consecutive month. Data from the Trade Ministry on Monday indicated that the figure hit $4.28 billion. This was led by a strong performance in exports, which were positive for the 6th straight month. Exports for March increased by 3.1% compared to the year before, reaching $56.56 billion. Meanwhile, imports dropped by 12.3%. Ship exports increased by more than 100%. And for the first time in 24 months, exports of all 4 IT subcategories, semiconductors, displays, computers, and peripheral devices saw an increase. In particular, semiconductor exports rose by nearly 40% on-year, reaching their highest value since June 2022. With the strong performance in IT exports, exports to IT retail and production hubs like Vietnam and Hong Kong rose. China was South Korea's largest export market overall, while the value of exports to U.S. surged to a record high. The trade minister pledged to continue this economic growth by providing 1 trillion won, or $743 million of support for exporting companies. He added that the trade balance is expected to keep seeing surpluses throughout the second quarter on the back of strong chip, car, and ship exports. An Sung-jin, Arirang News.
Exports of South Korean non-alcoholic beverages hit a record high last year. Data from Korea Agro-Fisheries Trade Corp on Monday showed that the export value of such beverages came to $572 million in 2023. That is an on-year increase of 11.5%. Carbonated milk soda and shike rice drinks were among the most popular exports. By nation, exports to China were the highest, followed by the United States, Cambodia, and Vietnam. Non-alcoholic beverage exports have continued that boom this year, surging 28% on year in the first 2 months of 2024. The Great Train Express began partial operation over the weekend, and it is now available for workers to commute from the Greater Seoul region to Seoul in around 30 minutes. Over 20,000 people are expected to enjoy the convenience of the GTX every day. My colleague Park Gon-woo reports.
Partial operation of Line A of the Great Train Express, or GTX, began on March 30th. According to the Transport Ministry, almost 19,000 people used the service, which runs between Seoul and the greater metropolitan area, on the first day, despite it being the weekend. That was around 2,000 people more than the ministry had projected.
I think the GTX will allow people from far places to commute more conveniently, and I think I can also consider a job flipping to other regions as well.
It was difficult to ride the bus with my child, but now with this train, I think I will be visiting Seoul more often.
Since the GTX-A line is now in operation from Suseok Southern Seoul to Dongtan in Gyeonggi-do Province, I'm going to check how long it actually takes from the moment I pass through the turnstile until I reach Dongtan. It took around 5 minutes to travel the 40 meters underground by escalator to the platform. Then it was just 20 minutes to Dongtan, a journey that would have taken around an hour by car or bus. With the train running at an average speed of around 110 kilometers per hour and up to a top speed of 180 kilometers per hour, the GTX is 2 to 3 times faster than a normal subway. As you can see, it took 30 minutes for me to get from Suseok to Dongtan Station. Trains usually run at 20-minute intervals, but that gap shortens to 17 minutes during peak hours, which is usually longer than normal subways, so checking train schedules is advised.
I wish the interval between trains becomes shorter at peak times.
The government said it would try to run more trains after the other parts of the A line are connected in order to reduce intervals. Some people also raised concerns about safety issues when riding the GTX.
I am a bit worried about accidents, as this is a high-speed train.
The Transport Ministry said the government will work on ways to address issues raised by citizens, with the Transport Minister also saying more employees will be deployed at each station to alleviate worries. He added he'll do his best so that other GTX lines, including the other part of the A line, will swiftly begin operation. Park Gon-woo, Arirang News.
South Korea has established a new defense center for artificial intelligence as part of efforts to quickly and efficiently incorporate AI technology into the defense center. Now our defense correspondent Choi Min-jung reports.
South Korea's defense ministry has launched the Defense Artificial Intelligence Center to foster strong AI technology for use in future battlefields. The founding ceremony was held at the Agency for Defense Development on Monday, hosted by Defense Minister Shin Won-sik. The minister said the establishment of the Defense AI Center is a cornerstone for accelerating the creation of a scientific and technological powerhouse. He vowed to build an overwhelming national defense power that realizes peace through strength by securing core cutting-edge forces based on AI. The launch came as part of the country's Defense Innovation 4.0 initiative, which aims to develop a high-tech military based on AI and other cutting-edge technologies. The new center will serve as a platform to develop AI-based manned and unmanned systems of complex combat. A Defense Ministry official also explained the Defense AI Center will incorporate AI technology developed by private firms to introduce systems needed by the military. The ministry plans to prioritize using AI technology to improve the working environment experienced by soldiers as well.
In order to foster a strong AI and technology force in the future, we will perform our mission and role in an innovative and challenging manner as a think tank and R&D hub for the development of autonomous AI technology.
The Defense AI Center is comprised of some 110 people, consisting of private researchers with technical expertise and active duty soldiers with military expertise. Choi Min-jung, Arirang News.
South Korea's top diplomat will be attending the meeting of NATO foreign ministers later this week. South Korea was invited to the meeting for the third straight year as one of the 4 partnered countries in the Indo-Pacific region, including Japan, Australia, and New Zealand. During the 2-day meeting that is set to take place starting Wednesday in Brussels, foreign ministers of NATO countries are also expected to discuss ways to prepare for the upcoming NATO summit in Washington, D.C. in July. This is the first ministerial meeting since Sweden became the 32nd member of the NATO Security Alliance last month. Over in Israel, calls for Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to resign are intensifying, with around 100,000 Israelis protesting against their leader in Jerusalem on Sunday. Lee Seung-jae has more.
Weekend protests against Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and his government grew even more on Sunday, with the Times of Israel reporting that around 100,000 Israelis rallied in front of the parliament. Protesters expressed their anger at the government for its prolonged war in Gaza without being able to eradicate Hamas or bring back the hostages taken by the militant group. The protesters also expressed anger towards the government's support of exempting ultra-Orthodox Jewish youth from military service. Others criticized the fact that the Prime Minister's son has not been in the country since the start of the Gaza conflict.
So what I'm doing here is trying to change the government, because this government is a complete and utter failure, and the only way they will lead us into the abyss that we will never come out of.
Protesters called for an early general election to remove Netanyahu from office. However, the Israeli Prime Minister argued, saying that if a general election were held now during the war, hostage negotiations with the government would be paralyzed for 6 to 8 months. Opposition leader and former Prime Minister Yair Lapid said that an early general election would not paralyze the government, arguing that Israel has already been paralyzed due to the ongoing war with Hamas and the lack of hostage negotiations. Sunday's massive gathering followed protests involving tens of thousands of Israelis from cities across the country on Saturday, leaving Netanyahu to grapple with one of the most serious threats yet to his coalition. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
San Diego Padres infielder Ha-seong hit his first home run of the season, launching a 3-run shot in the second inning of Sunday's game against the San Francisco Giants. The Padres got off to a huge start in their 4th game of the opening series, scoring 5 runs in the first inning and 4 more in the second, including the long ball by Kim. His first home run of the season came just a day after the newly signed Lee Jung-hoo of the Giants hit HIS first home run on Saturday. Kim and Lee were teammates at the KBO's Kium Heroes. Lee signed a 6-year, $113 million contract with the Giants during the off-season. The time to say goodbye to FuBao, the giant panda living in Korea's Everland amusement park, is approaching, as she is set to move to China Wednesday. During her stay in Korea, FuBao has undeniably evolved into a cultural icon. Ahead of FuBao's second chapter in life, our culture correspondent Song Yoo-jin delved into what's behind Korea's FuBao fever.
After 3 years and 8 months in Korea, FuBao, the beloved giant panda, will soon start a new chapter in China. The 3-year-old celebrity panda, the first offspring of Aibao and Lebao, is leaving her hometown Everland, Korea's largest theme park, on April 3rd. All cubs of pandas unleashed from China must return upon reaching sexual maturity, typically around 4 years old. FuBao's departure sparked a wave of emotion among her fans who flocked to say goodbye during her final days in public view. Some even waited for up to 7 hours. That's because FuBao has been at the center of Korea's panda fever.
Everyone's YouTube channel, which uploads videos of FuBao, saw a surge of 450,000 new subscribers last year. Following the release of FuBao merchandise, the theme park recorded an operating profit of 66 billion won in 2023. I think a sensation is because FuBao is the first giant panda to be born in Korea.
Her bond with zookeepers, often called her grandpas, also played a big role.
FuBao's connection with the zookeepers is what resonated with people and made them like her even more.
Fans say her biggest charm is her personality.
FuBao is great at expressing her emotions. When she's angry, she might roll around. And when she's happy, she flashes this really joyful smile. So I sometimes wonder if there's a person inside her.
I think what I like to call FuBao's pure attitude towards life, such as her perseverance to eat bamboo or climb up a tree, somehow encourages and comforts people.
With FuBao's departure, there will be 4 giant pandas left in Korea. Parents Aibao, Lebao, and their twins Ruibao and Huibao. Everland is still packed with visitors waiting 1 to 2 hours just to catch a glimpse of the remaining 4 Bao family members. Those who are unable to bid farewell to FuBao in person can do so by looking at photos and writing messages. FuBao translates to a gift that brings happiness. For the past 3 years, she's brought great joy to Korea. Now, Korea wishes her a lifetime full of happiness. 송유진, Arirang News.
Global warming has made recent summers in the South Pole warmer, and with that, sea ice in the region is expected to reach new record low levels this summer. A team of local researchers have uncovered that it is polar vortexes in the atmosphere that affect rising summer temperatures in the South Pole. Yoon has the details.
In the South Pole, summer comes to an end in March, which is when the amount of sea ice in the region drops to its lowest. In 2022, the sea ice showed significant shrinkage, with its size dropping below 2 million square kilometers for the first time. But that record was broken last year, with the sea ice shrinking to 1.8 million square kilometers. Experts are projecting a new record low this year, as the South Pole had an even warmer summer, and in February, the sea ice area had already dropped below 2 million square kilometers.
The sea ice started to shrink rapidly starting around 2016, and this year we're also predicting a sharp decrease.
A team of South Korean researchers have uncovered in a study that it is warm airflow in the atmosphere that is causing warmer summers in the South Pole. In the Antarctic stratosphere, there are polar vortexes that rotate counterclockwise, which function as a kind of barrier to block warm air. But this vortex that grows in the winter months and weakens in early December has been collapsing earlier year by year. And as the high pressure increases, this allows more warm air to flow.
The period when the polar vortex collapse occurs has gradually become earlier. With that, airflow in the troposphere also weakens, and more warm mid-latitude air could flow to the South Pole.
Global warming shrinks the sea ice, which decreases the amount of sunlight reflected, turning into a vicious cycle that accelerates climate change. The research team emphasized that in order to identify the root cause of the rapid collapse of polar vortexes, continuous monitoring and further climate change research is crucial. 이은진, Arirang News.
Let's take a look at the latest news in the world now. Türkiye's main opposition party, the Republican People's Party, declared victory on Sunday in municipal elections in the main cities of Ankara and Istanbul. According to preliminary results, Istanbul's incumbent mayor, Ekrem İmamoğlu, led by nearly 10 percentage points, delivering a heavy blow to President Recep Tayyip Erdogan's AK party. Turkish broadcaster NTV reported on Sunday that the Republican People's Party, or CHP, had nearly 51% of the votes, with around 92% of the ballots counted in Istanbul, Turkey's largest city. In the capital, Ankara, CHP candidate Mayor Mansur Yavaş led with 59%, with 85% of the votes counted. The secular CHP was also on the course to win in multiple major cities, including Adana, Antalya, Bursa, and Izmir. State-run Anadolu Agency reported a voter turnout of around 76% from the 61 million people who are eligible to cast ballots for the metropolitan municipalities, district mayorships, and neighborhood administrations. In Japan, the country's health authorities searched 2 factories operated by Kobayashi Pharmaceutical over the weekend after the company reported 5 deaths potentially related to dietary supplements they produced. Officials from the Ministry of Health, Labor and Welfare, as well as the city of Osaka officials, conducted the inspection after 5 people died and 114 were hospitalized as of Friday after taking the company's supplements. Kobayashi says toxic puberulic acid might have been produced by blue mold penicillium in beni koji, or red yeast rice material used in their products. The supplements were marketed as helping to lower cholesterol levels. Kazumasa Kobayashi, the company's CEO, apologized at a news conference on Friday and said it was investigating the health hazard related to their supplements. In Indonesia, a massive fire broke out on Saturday at a military ammunition depot in Bogor city near the country's capital. Officials said the fire had been extinguished in the early hours of Sunday morning and that the military was conducting a search mission in the area to collect any materials that might have flown out during the explosions. The Indonesian military said that while investigations are underway, unstable chemicals in aging ammunition stored at the facility may have caused the fire. No casualties have been reported. Christians around the world marked Easter Sunday, believed to be the day Jesus rose from the dead. At the Vatican's Easter event, Pope Francis greeted crowds in St. Peter's Square and was driven down to the river Tiber. The Vatican says some 60,000 people showed up. In the Belgian city of Antwerp, thousands of residents gathered in the Bogerhout district on Sunday to share a meal on a 2-kilometer-long table, an evening event which combined the celebrations of Christian Easter and Muslim Iftar. The dinner hosted up to 7,000 people, breaking the record for the longest community dinner table in Belgium. Kim Seong, Arirang News.
Good afternoon. Picture perfect weather to start out April. We had much brighter springtime sunshine to start out this morning, and temperatures are rising fast. Beware of big gaps in ratings of more than 15 degrees Celsius in many parts of the country today. A dry advisory is in place for east of Gangwon-do, so fire safety is a must in the area, but air quality will be decent nationwide. Have your sunglasses and a hat on when stepping outside. It will be quite sunny all day in most parts of the country. Seoul sees a high of 18 degrees Celsius, Busan, Jeju topping out at 20 degrees Celsius. Make the most of today's bright skies. We have rain in the forecast from Jeju tomorrow, spreading nationwide by Wednesday. Just a heads up, rain, which is forecast for 3 days this week on the south coast in Jeju, could knock cherry blossoms off. Meanwhile, temperatures stay on the warmer side this week. That's Korea for you, and here's a look at the international weather conditions.
That's all we have for you at this hour. We'll bring you more updates at the same time tomorrow.